Hey everybody, Steve Fretzin here, and I hope you are well. Today we've got a great show planned, I want to make you aware that we have a second podcast now. It's called Surprise, Surprise, Be That Lawyer, but this one's called Be That Lawyer Coach's Corner. So in the difference is that instead of interviewing great guests like Kaylee, who's waiting in the wings. Hi, Kaylee.
Hi.
Good to see you. I'm going to be just sharing my best hits. I'm going to be talking about how to plan and execute and sustain a successful law practice. I know one episode I'm bringing in one of my clients to talk about their experiences working with me so far, and just make sure that you guys are getting, the knowledge that I have to help you grow a successful law practice. So a little different vibe than this one, but I think they're both going to be excellent to help you be that lawyer, confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. That was a lot. That was like a long run-on sentence right there, Kaylee. So we are going to jump in. Kaylee pulled up her website and just has the most wonderful quote. It's so perfect for this show, and I'm going to read it and I'm going to ask you about it and welcome you in. So it is, everything is downstream from lead generation. You can't build a business if you cannot generate leads. Daniel Priestley. Now, is that for the guy from 90120? I'm
No.
just kidding. I'm just kidding. What was it, Jonathan Priestley?
Maybe
What was that
his
guy's name?
maybe his
Jason
brother.
Priestley.
I don't know.
Maybe they're cousins. Maybe they're cousins.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about why that quote is so important to you that you put it up on your website front and center.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. So I actually got into marketing back in 2016. Before that, I was in sales my entire career from college all the way up until 2016. So B2B and B2C sales. I felt like I really knew that side of it. And a lot of times we think marketing and sales overlap, which I would say now they're starting to
Mhm.
with the evolution of the internet and social media and social selling and all the stuff. But back in 2016, that was just kind of hitting its peak. So, yeah, Daniel Priestley is one of my favorite marketers, mentors, if you will. He wrote the book Oversubscribed, and a lot of other Key Person of Influence is another great one. Has a lot of really good books. But very simply put, when I was in sales for years, you can't, like those who have their lead generation on point, make them look like they're all-star sales. And
Mhm.
then those who don't are the ones that are constantly swimming upstream. So.
Yeah. And lawyers, if you listen to, our Be That Lawyer live segments a few weeks ago, John Shakota was very clear about the importance of lead generation, and nothing happens until, no firm has business until a lead is generated. So I know you didn't get into and go to law school and become a lawyer because you wanted to get involved in lead generation for yourself and for the law firm, but that's where the action starts. You can't sort of avoid that idea that the business of law is around lead generation. And we're going to take a pretty deep dive today into that. But everybody, K'Lee Terrazas is the founder and CEO of Legal Lead Sharks. And do us a solid and give us a little bit of your background, obviously sales. And I want to, maybe we could take a few minutes after you talk about, because I had kind of an interesting young life sales thing too. We might compare notes, but give us your, how did you get into this whole thing and working with lawyers?
Yeah, so I've had a digital marketing company since 2016, and Legal Lead Sharks was birthed out of that. About 2.5 years ago, I got my first attorney, and I loved it. I used to, like most marketing companies, jack of all trades, websites, SEO, Google business profiles, everything,
Yeah.
paid ads. But when I got my first attorney, I really narrowed down on lead generation, client acquisition. So all things Google, Google Ads, LSA ads, and the Google Map Pack. Basically getting them to the top of direct search was my game. And I loved it. I love working with attorneys. I started reading books on how to scale your law firm, to try to uncover more of what's going on under the hood, if you will. I think that's where a lot of agencies really miss the boat in marketing is they have no idea what happens after the click.
Mm.
So I really wanted to know the entire life cycle of the click to the signed case so that I could help attorneys grow with client acquisition.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. And marketing, sales, I talk about this quite a bit, that I feel like a lawyer that's going to be successful today needs to climb two sides of the mountain at the same time: the business development side and relationships and lead gen, and then the marketing side of building that personal brand, And obviously for some lawyers in personal injury and other areas, they might have a much bigger spend in how they utilize their money and their time. And then for other folks, it might just be putting themselves out there and investing their time and networking and other activities, speaking and writing and things like that. But where do you see the big challenge for lawyers as it relates to lead generation, marketing, business development, the whole kit and caboodle?
Yeah, that is that's the right question. Oftentimes we're asking the wrong questions when we meet with somebody. That's 100% the right question. So the first area that there's two I'm going to hit, and they're directly related to each other. First area is they don't know their numbers, whether it's in marketing or in operations, they simply are flying blind.
Mm-hmm.
I can ask very simple marketing questions about where they're spending their budget, how much is allocated where, what's their ROI, what's their cost per acquisition. And every answer is, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, even if I'm speaking to their marketing person at their firm. So my mentor and coach for Google Ads, when I learned Google Ads back in the day, he's launched and scaled 2 7-figure ads agency. He really specializes in e-commerce. But he told me the people who win are simply like you can put it in one sentence, if you know your numbers. So Google can be a money printing machine or a money burning pit. That's the number one place that I see law firms struggling. And like if you went to school to be a lawyer, you didn't go to school to be an HR professional, a marketer, like all the other hats you have to wear. So that's why having a coach like you or a marketer like me that specializes in our zone, we can see blind spots that they can't. And it's just because that's our area.
Yeah. Let me add on to that, Kaylee, because I think if we talk about marketing, newsletters, websites, Google clicks, all that stuff, the data's there. There are programs and software that just give you the data. And if you don't look at it, analyze it, and improve it, you are throwing a lot of that money away. However, I also want to mention in business development, there are numbers too. And I can tell you marketing gets more attention than sales when it comes to numbers. For example, a lawyer goes on 10 meetings, okay? Doesn't know how many they're getting, why they're converting, why they're not converting, how the email follow-up is working. There's all these other moving parts to business development that might have started with marketing numbers, but then it gets into the sales and the business development numbers, and they're totally clueless on that. One of the reasons I have my clients fill out a journal that tracks their day, the numbers and the activity details, so that I can see that in fact they're meeting with 10 prospective clients, they're only getting 2 when they should be getting 8. And then we can start working backwards to break it down. How does that work in marketing when you realize the numbers are off and there needs to be some major adjustments?
Very similar to how it would be for you with coaching on the back end. And that's another number that we need to know is what is your close rate? And I'll ask a lawyer, for example, what's your lifetime value of a client? And we could say criminal, personal injury, or family law. Now, hopefully all of those are one-off clients. So I get that they're like, that's not applicable to me. But it absolutely is, because if we took drunk driving cases, so DUIs, or if you're in PI, we took commercial motor vehicle, or in family, we took divorce versus custody cases. All we need to do is add up your total and divide it by the year, and then we know how much that client is worth to you. We need to know that in order to know what your marketing spend green line is, right? Like, where are we going to hit the ROI positive? And then at that point, scale.
Yeah.
But to your point, if I don't know how many of those you're closing, if we got you 18 cases and then you only won like 5, that uncovers another blind spot. And that's why coaches are invaluable. I read the book Fireproof by Mike Morris. And I will tell you the turning point in that book is when he hired a coach that told him his blind spot is he doesn't know his numbers. It's like going to a basketball game with no scoreboard.
Yeah.
After he hired his coach, the coach said, we need a COO. Somebody's got to be in charge of all this other stuff that's bottlenecking you from scaling. And then literally, and I know the book is like 20 years, like in a short time, which is so much fun to read. But that was the turning point from a small multi-million-dollar firm to a billion-dollar, whale in his industry. Yeah. So you've got to have somebody that can see blind spots.
And here's the sickest thing I'll share about that. So an attorney that is losing business because they don't have a good process for closing, for example, or I call it walking a buyer through a buying process to get
Hmm.
to the end. And they're not closing. Each one of those is worth, 5,000 or 10,000 or 100,000. And then you do the math of how long that's been going on where they haven't been effective at closing or getting that client in. And it's been going on for years. And you start doing the math. And then if nothing changes for the next couple of years, how much they're going to lose, we're into millions and millions of dollars. And then you start putting in the time. They're billable at 500 an hour, 750 an hour. And that is all wasted time with prospects that aren't moving forward. And you start doing the math on that, and the numbers get astronomical very fast. So I don't always bring that up to lawyers, but when I do, it sure makes my fee go down real quick because they realize, it's pennies compared to what they're actually losing because of inefficiencies and lack of process and systems and tracking, to your point of looking at the numbers. And so it's really,
Right.
it's mind blowing, quite frankly. If you're a rainmaker and you're feeling like you're on an island, you don't have anyone to share your ideas with, solve problems with, you're going to want to check out my Rainmaker Roundtables. Click the link below and learn more.
Right. And I agree with you. There are some areas we all want to, budget. We all want to cut expenses. I would say, like my husband does payroll and HR. Great. That's a $10 an hour task. You can do that for a couple hundred a month. It's off your plate. You shouldn't be wasting time. Where I would say you don't want to try to budget is in a coach that has a lot of value versus someone who like graduated business school last year and doesn't know the school of hard knocks. They've never been in the real world.
Yeah.
Marketing, another area you don't want to cut corners and get the cheaper person, because you're going to see that in your results because they don't know what's going on. So
Yeah.
I agree with you.
The last thing a lawyer should say to me is, I'm gonna take a break from working with you because things have been down. What? Yeah, I think it's the saying that everyone knows in marketing is you invest when things are down to ensure that they get back up. Not I'm gonna keep my money tight because things are down, and then what? Then everything
Right.
continues to go down. It doesn't compute with me. I want to transition to intake because one of the things that we talked about was sharing some of your hacks to effective intake, and we have to keep this somewhat broad because in some instances it's intake from Google leads and pay-per-click ads and SEO and things that are taking people to a website where they fill out a form. In other instances, there are lawyers who are just getting phone calls or emails because their name's been passed around. Whatever the case, if you screw up on the intake, or don't even realize you're screwing up on the intake because things aren't right. So what are some of the things that you would recommend to ensure that lawyers are successful in the intake process?
Yeah. So this piggybacks back to your original question. I said there's two areas. First is know your
Yes.
numbers, right?
Yep.
Second is intake. So one thing that I didn't realize until I started working with an attorney and running big ad budgets was, and again, big or small, irrelevant. This is a bottleneck I have seen across the board now. And I work with a lot of people who work with law firms, whether it's wealth management or CFOs or what fractional CFOs. They'll all tell you the same thing. I just listened to a podcast yesterday by Jennifer Gore. She's a powerhouse female attorney out of Georgia, PI attorney. And she said the first thing she asks when she's coaching other lawyers is, how's your intake? And they'll say, oh, it's great. And she said, great, let's call it. And then she goes, you can almost see beads of sweat starting to run down their face because they know it's not great.
Oh wait, this is actually happening?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So I have a good story. I started working with a law firm running a high budget of Google ads. And then after it was about 4 to 6 weeks, he called me and said, these leads suck. And I'm like, I can see what they're Googling when they, and some of them, yeah, when you're running a big budget, you're going to catch a lot of stuff. But for the most part, these were really good leads. So I took it upon myself to blind test their intake, and he raved about their intake, which I hope that anybody would. I hope you think you have a good intake process. So I did my very first test was on the weekends, notoriously bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I did overflow calls, and then I did their, during office hours. Now the caveat here is their phone rings from the Google ad number saying this is a Google ad lead, right? So they know this is a lead. So my first call was on a Saturday. He had one of his in-house intake taking overflow calls on the weekend, which is a mistake. You're overworking your team. But anyway, so it rang for 2 minutes, and I was just about to hang up when I heard hello. And I paused and looked at my phone and thought, did I dial the wrong number? And I said, "Is this XYZ law firm?" And he said, "Yeah." And I was just shocked, first of all. And I thought, "Oh, okay." And then he's like, "Can I help you?" And I recorded these calls and then sent them to the lawyer and said, "Let me know what you think about these 5 calls." That was it.
And heads rolled from there.
Yes, yes. I didn't need to point fingers back at him. I just
Yeah.
needed to make him aware that there was a blind spot. So
Yeah.
after
Wow.
2 years of working with my law firms, and some of them, to your point, some of them just need admin. They just need calls that are coming in from organic, referrals, whatever. And then others of them are running really huge marketing spend, and there is an influx of irrelevant calls, and their intake team is just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Um, After 2 years of doing in-house training, more white glove service in-house training, and then also call center, finding them the right call center, it was really expensive. I finally launched our newest baby, Intake EQ, which is a humans, and it's EQ because it's got emotional intelligence. I would not take this live for any of my clients until it sounded like a real person. It sounded compassionate, empathetic. It was trained on their law firm. It was really important to me that this had to be right. I don't want to waste a single dollar or a single lead that could have been a multi-million-dollar case for
Mhm.
this firm.
Yeah.
So they're bilingual. They work 24/7. They sound like real people. There's background typing noises, whether they're doing just lead intake, which is qualifying the leads and doing a live transfer, down to with some of my immigration and criminal law, they may be taking retainers over the phone, processing payments and booking them like right on the spot with their team.
Yeah.
So inbound calls, outbound calls, these guys do it all and they sound like they work at the firm. They don't sound like an outsourced call center in India that wants to jump out the window because this is the 50th call they've taken today. So,
Yeah. There's a show, if people haven't seen it, it's I don't know how that's possible, but The Bear, it's been nominated for and won awards and all that. But in the recent, and this is not a spoiler alert, but they're this guy Richie, who kind of runs the front end of the restaurant, said they're waiting, for the person that's going to give them the Michelin star, like it might come in any time. But that doesn't matter because his philosophy is everyone is family. And what that means in relating to intake is it a multi-million dollar case? Is it a $10,000 case? It doesn't matter. You don't know which one's going to come in, win, and what it's going to be worth. And don't treat it differently. They're 10,000
right.
should be treated the same. My father, Larry the lawyer, said that he had people that could barely pay him or didn't pay him, and he said, "I'm going to treat them as though they were multimillionaires. I don't care because it's people, it's humans. I want to care for them." But I think the point about intake is everyone has to be treated like it's the most important case. And if you're dropping the ball, holy mackerel. So that's really great. I love that. Intake EQ, everybody. Is there a website for that?
Yeah, it's intake-eq.com.
Okay. .com. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Check that out, everybody. And that might be super helpful because I think if you let a phone go to voicemail, if you let a phone go 2 minutes of ringing, or it's handled by a company that isn't really trained up properly or whatever, holy mackerel, what a big misstep that is in business development process. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
first line of that's like a first impression. You walk into a restaurant, they go, "What do you want?" Like, "I wanted to eat here, but now I want to leave." Right? I mean, are you kidding me? No restaurant would do that, right? It's a smile and it's hello, welcome to, and that's what you need to do. And that's just the first step of, a dozen after. So
What
what's it?
people I think
Yeah.
don't realize about intake is it's a sales process. And you're hiring people for, $14 an hour that sound like they don't care about their job, sound like they're looking for another job or hate their job. And to your point, like that is your first impression.
Yeah.
So had I been a personal injury victim and then the call was answered with hello on a Saturday, I would have called another firm
Yeah.
because we have expectations of the legal industry that are pretty high, professional. And I've got demo lines people can call and they can hear how empathetic the person sounds. Like I had a guy say, "I got into a car accident and I was going 400 miles an hour." And she's like, "Oh my goodness, I hope everyone was okay." I mean, you know what I mean? Like, but they were trying to throw her off and give her these weird things. And
Yeah.
she just handled it like a pro. But that has to be every call, to your point, whether it's a real call or a demo call. People have to feel like they are heard and that they're cared about, or they're going to go somewhere else.
All right. So that all makes perfect sense. What's another intake hack that you can share that's going to help people make money?
Um, Knowing your numbers. A lot of people don't audit their intake. The cool thing about intake EQ is it's all recorded and we audit
Mm.
it with the AI. So we're constantly giving a feedback loop to me to say if you're an immigration attorney and you're getting a lot of criminal cases, I need to go tweak your Google Ads or I need to go tweak your marketing messaging. So there's a lot about intake beyond just like getting the call answered
But
properly.
I'm going to stop you right there because I think what you're saying is universally important, and that is if you don't audit what is going on in your marketing and your business development and your networking and any activity you're speaking to a group and you're not getting the business from those speaking engagements and you're just doing them year after year after year, you're not auditing yourself or having someone look at you to help you audit. And you end up, so that the saying is, do you have 10 years of experience doing this or 1 year experience 10 times? And you
Yep.
might be doing that with intake, you might be doing that with networking and blowing through money and blowing through time and hours. So I think it's really critical that we just take a moment to sort of respect the audit and the importance of reflection, reflecting back
Yeah.
and making changes.
Yeah, a lot of times, like I just had on Legal Lead Sharks, we have a podcast. I had Leah Miller on. She's a fractional CFO and bookkeeper. And a lot of times, when you have someone that zooms out, she can say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! You are really payroll and overhead heavy, and you're not spending enough on marketing. You have 3 years max at this rate before you fold."
Mm,
If you don't have a coach like Steve, you could be doing speaking events and just tweak a little thing at the end, like a call to action. What do you want from them? Ask them for something after you gave them value. And then all of a sudden, your hour speaking just turned into 5 new clients or 5 new referral partners. But yeah, you can't. I've got a coach. Like we all have blind spots, and if we could see them, they wouldn't be our blind spots. We would fix them. So it's really important that you have someone who can zoom out and see outside of you and say, "Oh, blind spot, blind spot, blind spot," and you course correct, and then things just scale easier, and you
yeah.
can sleep at night.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. And I'm speaking at a conference in Santa Fe in October, and I'm on the phone with the woman who was helping me get through it and set everything up. And I said, "Hey, I'd love to see who's going to be there to connect with them on LinkedIn and just introduce myself so they can kind of review me and like if they want a book or anything they want before the event, that way I can send them stuff and start getting them primed for me. I'm doing the keynote at the beginning of this big international thing." Hey everybody, do you ever wonder why top executives and athletes are so successful? It's typically because they have a coach, someone that is looking at them from the outside to identify their gaps, identify their potential. That's what I do. I'm Steve Fretzin, and I'm here to help you be that lawyer. If you're interested in a free consultation, click the link below and we'll get together and we'll identify where you can make improvements to be that lawyer. How many people would have thought to do that? I'm not saying I'm special. I'm saying like for me, it's common sense. For other people, they would just show up, do the presentation, leave, and hope that things are going to work out. No, I'm setting it up to get to know the people. I've got some plans of what I'm going to do to execute when I'm there. And I'm planning on being a part of the CLE survey. So when they complete the survey, a question would say, "Do you want to talk with Steve about what he does for lawyers?" And that way, out of 50 people, 5 or 6 say, "Yeah, I definitely want to talk with Steve. I thought what he said was great," or whatever. Hopefully, what that happens, right? Then, I'm covering all my bases and getting the most juice out of the squeeze. And I just don't think people are doing that enough with their marketing, business development, et cetera.
100%. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Because lawyers went to law school. They didn't go to business school, marketing school, sales,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just you don't know like what you don't know, and that's why it pays to have the right people in your corner. Just like if I needed a lawyer, I want the best. I
Yeah.
want the best at their game, and I want people that have results. I want people who know what they're doing. I'm not gonna chat GPT it and watch Lincoln Lawyers or Suits and be like, "Okay, I got this."
Yeah.
That sounds
That's,
ludicrous, but
that's,
that's what a lot of people are doing with their businesses.
yeah. I just watched Shark Tank. I know exactly how to build my business.
Yeah.
Mr. You
Expert.
gotta impress Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, all right. Well, listen, let's wrap up with a segment I love to call Kaylee's Big Mistake. Tell us about something that happened in your career that really blew your mind and but made you stronger in the end.
That was what led me into marketing. So I launched an app years ago. This is back like 2013 to 2014, and it was for the deaf and hard of hearing. And this is just, it was a complete passion project, but I spent a lot of money on it. I really wanted to help. I went through the patenting process. I had three hits that came back with, they were like, we need to change the verbiage, which would have just completely, like, that was the whole purpose of my patent. So I was like, forget it. But I asked, who are these three guys? It's the same guy three times. Like, who is this? And they said, that's Google. And it was the voice to text transcription. So I was creating an app to help deaf people who are out in public that, they need the voice to text to transcription so they know what's going on at a doctor's appointment or teacher's meeting or whatever. Long story short, I realized I know a lot about sales and I didn't know anything about how to market that online to a group of people that it wasn't me, right? I don't fit into that group and I needed to know their pain points, etc. So anyways, complete face flop, but I learned a ton and I put myself out there. I went all in, and off the back of that, people started asking, hey, can you build my website? Hey, can you do my SEO? Hey, can you help me with my Google business profile? And I thought, wow, this is a business that I just learned how to do, trying to help myself. So that's kind of how I got into marketing.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. It's funny. People don't know this, but a number of years ago, I met this amazing guy named Barry, and we started a marketing agency together. And boy, what a terrible mistake that was. It's like, hey, I've got all these clients that need marketing. I'll just do it myself. And then I had to like figure out how to do it all. And it just so far away from what I enjoy and what gives me pleasure and how I can, use my skills to benefit the legal community. And so, it took about 2 years for me to realize, this is not a passion project. This is painful. And I'm going to leave it up to the pros like you, Kaylee, who really understand how to help lawyers get results. And I'll stay in my lane, but I like that people try things. And hopefully you don't lose your shirt on it. Hopefully you don't, put all your eggs in that basket. And I haven't ever done that. I've always kept my main eggs in this basket. But sometimes it's fun to try. But to realize quickly, the quicker you can figure out something isn't right and get out of it, the better. In my case.
Yeah, that was a valuable learning experience for me, and I wouldn't take it back. It was an expensive one, but I much prefer learning through coaches, books, and mentors than I do through the School of Hard Knocks. So
if you can learn from someone else's experience and get the suggestion, and there's lawyers that want to do all kinds of things. Oh, I'm just going to start doing this area of practice, or I'm going to go join this firm because they do this something or other. And I go, can we just I'm not trying to be devil's advocate. That was my dad's job, but let's at least break it down pros and cons, because I think you're just seeing shiny pennies and bright objects. You're not really thinking about, what you actually enjoy, what you're really good at doing, and what's most profitable. And those are the most important three things anybody's going to take away. If you can get those three things, don't do anything else, unless you can find someone else to run it for you or something.
And a lot of times when people they get that urge for the shiny object and to start, it's always fun to start something new, right? That's the most fun part for a lot of people. But it's when if you have your own firm, it's when things start getting tough that you're about to hit the next level. Like if you're looking at it like a game, you're on level 1, you're about to hit level 2, but you've got to keep doing those boring, redundant things. And then you also have to get around people, because the people often who take us to one level of the game, some of them can scale with us and some of them have that scaling in place for us, like coaches. There's other times, like I'm talking to a company and they're actually, they're in the medical group, but they do personal injury medical. So it's a vertical I help to, but just because it directly correlates to what I've already done.
Yeah.
And they open 6 offices, but they're stuck and they can't figure out why. And I was like, well, most likely what got you here is not going to get you there. And you're continuing to do the same thing over and over, and it's not going to get you the same results. You've got to level up to the next level. Yeah, every level has a new rule or new rule book. Yeah. So instead of chasing the next thing, just realize you're probably at one of those level up times that if you just stuck with it and pushed through with the right people, you'd probably scale past that discomfort, that's making you want to chase the next thing.
Yeah. Well, amazing. Everything we've shared today, I think, has been rock solid, and you've been amazing, and I appreciate you so much. I'm going to take a moment and just thank our sponsors. If you're a personal injury attorney and you have not signed up for PIMCon, this might be your last chance. We'll be out there in Scottsdale, Arizona at the Phoenician. I think we got Nikki Glazier as a keynote. I mean, amazing comedian. We've got a lineup that's unbelievable. I'm going to be talking about podcasts. So check that out. Of course, the Law Her podcast with Sonia. And check out Legalverse Media. That's an international website. I think you'll get a lot of great content from it. K'Lee, if people want to get in touch with you, what are the best digits to reach you?
Yeah, so you can info@legalleadsharks.com, or you can message me on LinkedIn. Let's connect on social and be friends. LinkedIn is probably where I'm most active. But yeah, just fill out a form on my website and book a discovery call. And let's see where you're at and where you want to go, and if I'm the right person to help you get there.
All the details in the show notes, folks. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you, K'Lee. This was wonderful, and I'm glad that I know I kind of put you off for a little bit because I've just been so busy, but I had to get my calendar opened up to get you on, and I'm so happy that I did. This was absolutely delightful.
Thanks. I loved it too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. And thank you, everybody, for hanging out with K'Lee and I today for Be That Lawyer. Again, don't forget, we've got Be That Lawyer, the book, 101 Top Rainmaker Secrets to Growing a Successful Law Practice, 55-star reviews, best-selling book on Amazon. Check that out. We've got Be That Lawyer, Coach's Corner with Steve Fretzin on your phone. If you look it up, you'll find it. And please give us some kind reviews. Tell people about it. Look, this show is meant to help you, but it's also meant to help the legal industry. So don't be greedy. Share it with everybody, and let's make sure everybody gets a fair shake at growing their law practice to be that lawyer, confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. Take care, everybody. Be safe. Be well. We will talk again soon. Are you ever curious what's really holding you back in business development? Sometimes it's hard to see the label from the inside of the bottle. I'm Steve Fretzin, and I can help you grow your book of business. Get a 30-minute free consultation with me. We'll identify gaps, identify your potential, and let's take it to the next level so you can be that lawyer. Click the link below for a free consultation.